Welcome back to In Focus Kentucky. On today's show, we're focusing on Child Abuse Prevention Month by speaking with those dedicated to preventing it here in Kentucky. And joining me now is Attorney General Andy Beshear, whose office has introduced a number of initiatives to help stop child abuse. Thanks so much for joining us today, General.
Thanks for having me.
And talk with us about your office's partnership with Prevent Child Abuse Kentucky. I know that's something that has been a priority for you, and how did this come together?
Right. Well, the Attorney General's office every day shows up to prevent and ultimately prosecute child abuse. It's one of our core missions. It doesn't matter what part of the office you're in, this is the cause that we're dedicated to. We know that the best thing that we can do for any of our children is to prevent them from ever experiencing the trauma that is child abuse. So starting shortly after I became elected, partnering with Prevent Child Abuse Kentucky and many more, we launched what I believe is the most comprehensive, cohesive, statewide child sexual abuse prevention training that we've ever seen. In year one, we trained over 1,600 people to recognize the signs of predators. What does it look like when they're grooming a family to gain access to a child? What does it look like when they're trying to groom the child to gain his or her confidence? So that when those 1,600 people see those signs in their communities, at their restaurants, at their movie theaters, they can step in and do something about it, because we all have a duty and a responsibility to step in and prevent child abuse. Year two, we knew we needed to build. Over this last year, we have been doing trainings for youth-serving organizations. Think about how many different groups our kids, certainly my kids, go through every day, whether it's school, after school, youth sports, church, and not all of them have the best practices and procedures in place that we know can minimize the likelihood for child abuse. Things like no closed doors, no one-on-one, and thus far, we're about halfway through those trainings. We have now reached organizations that have over 90,000 Kentucky children going through them every single day. Those 90,000 Kentucky children are better protected. But we've got to continue, because child abuse is 100% preventable. I believe in a world without child abuse, but we have to be willing to show up every day and fight for every inch of ground it takes to build that world.
And would you say that those trainings are crucial in the fight to help prevent child abuse?
Oh yes, because we prosecute those that abuse children every day, but that means a child has been forever harmed and traumatized. Now, the world that I want to build, the world that Kentucky children deserve, is one where child abuse never happens. So Child Abuse Prevention Month, which we're in right now, is critical to spread the word and the awareness that we work on every single other day of the year. Because you never know who that next child is. It could be mine, it could be yours, it could be any one of your viewers. So as responsible adults, we have to be able to recognize the signs and know that it is not only our moral but our legal duty to report child abuse or concerns of child abuse.
And talk about the law enforcement aspect of this in helping prevent child abuse and some of the new things that are just popping up with that.
Right. My office has a cyber crimes unit that works every day to protect our children from online predators. At any given point, there are over 500,000 predators online trying to gain access to our children. So when I came into office, I was absolutely focused on rounding up and removing as many of these predators from Kentucky communities as possible. And over the last year, we have nearly tripled the number of child predators that we've arrested, indicted, and ultimately convicted. Just today, we announced the arrest and indictment of a Ohio man that was trying to purchase sex with a child here in Kentucky. Working with the Ohio Attorney General and law enforcement, we were able to stop him, and now he's coming to Kentucky to ultimately pay for his crimes. When you look at the arrests we've made, they're so important because oftentimes they're people in positions of power or access to children. A Southern Indiana minister, a U of L researcher, folks that need to be caught because they won't stop.
Is this something that you mentioned earlier that is a top priority for you to kind of focus on and kind of zero in to try to eliminate this issue in our state?
Absolutely. I want child predators to know that if they try to harm a child in Kentucky, we will be there and we will catch them. Just look at our efforts in the area of human trafficking. As you know, human trafficking is the fastest growing criminal enterprise in the world. And on the sex trafficking side, they focus on recruiting children between 12 and 14 years old. There are over 5 million children that are trafficked throughout this world. Each one of them is being abused. But all you have to do is look at the month of February to see the progress we've made. Early in February, we announced the guilty plea of a former district judge in Northern Kentucky, 21 felony counts, 19 separate victims, many of them human trafficking. 3 days later, we announced the indictment of a Kansas man who wanted to fly to Kentucky to buy an 11-year-old girl. A couple days after that, we announced the arrest of a 21-year-old and a 50-year-old that were trafficking two 16-year-olds. Those are still children, young adults who were being abused multiple times a day, every day. And then during the Farm Machinery Show, we, along with local law enforcement, it was LMPD in that instance, had the most successful human trafficking sting that we've ever had, arresting 17 people, each of which thought they were going to show up to forever traumatize and abuse a child that now are never going to get that opportunity.
Now talk about the importance of public service announcements that to be able to educate the people in our state about this issue who may not be aware or may not believe they're personally affected, but what's the importance of running public service announcements or doing programs like In Focus Kentucky?
Well, PSAs, In Focus Kentucky, and other opportunities to raise awareness are critical because our people in Kentucky are good people. You know, they're parents, like I am, and they know that we have a duty not just to our own children, but all children. Now, I believe that each and every child in Kentucky is a child of God, equal in his or her eyes, and we as responsible adults have a duty to protect each and every one of them. And what I want to do is I want to give every Kentuckian the ability to spot and report child abuse, because if that happens, these abusers will have nowhere to hide. Just look at a couple of the partnerships in that human trafficking area. We're working with the Trucking Association because truck stops are targeted so that every truck driver can recognize the signs and report. We're working with the hotel industry. We even have a pledge where hotels agree to train all of their frontline workers to recognize the signs of abuse and report. UPS announced that they're going to train every single delivery driver to recognize those signs of human trafficking and report. If on human trafficking or child abuse, we could train every single Kentucky adult to recognize and report, there will be no place for these criminals to hide, and we can make Kentucky the safest state to be a child, the safest state to grow up, and that'll be a pretty amazing accomplishment.
And share with us about the pinwheel that you have on your lapel and explain to us and our viewers what that means and why it's important.
So the pinwheel is now the sign of child abuse prevention, and when we think back, it's an amazing, innocent symbol of our youth, and every child deserves to have that trauma-free upbringing where they have endless possibilities. But we know the effects of trauma on prosperity, how abuse makes it difficult to achieve in school, how a family ripped apart by drugs and trauma makes it so difficult to ultimately take those next steps and become a success. I'll tell you, I wear the pinwheel almost every single day as Attorney General. It reminds me every day that there's a lot of drama that goes on in Frankfort, but the people we serve are those children that need us the most.
Talked with us obviously last week. Governor Bevin had some strong words about sexual assault of children last week because schools were out across the state. Any reaction to those strong words?
They were wrong. They were wrong in every sense. I show up, the Attorney General's office shows up, police and law enforcement show up to fight child abuse every single day. We arrest predators, but we also help children that have gone through something horrific to try to give them the healing that they need. And to politicize that, to use it in that fashion, to blame teachers showing up just to protect their rights of causing or contributing to child abuse and child sexual abuse, it's just wrong. There's no place for those types of comments.
And with the month of April close to wrapping up, Child Abuse Prevention Month, doesn't end this month. So talk about your work and plans for the rest of the year to see this process out.
Well, every single day we are going to be out there monitoring the internet and trying to make sure that when a predator shows up thinking they're going to harm a child, that it's an investigator from my office there. Our efforts continue every single day, and I'm so proud of our detectives who work so hard to protect children. But virtually every day during the course of the year, we have some training opportunity, or some of our partners have training opportunities that are out there. Whether it's the remaining youth service organization trainings, or our next set of trainings is going to be on reporting. You know, when a child has the courage to make a report that he or she is being abused, that's the most important moment in that child's young life. And we need to make sure that every single time those that they report to know what to do, because they have to be perfect in that moment. For that child, that is a critical moment, and the way that we respond is so important. Number one, when a child makes that report, you have to believe them, and you have to let them know that you believe them. And number two, they need to feel like you are on their side, that you will protect them and seek justice for them. Look no further than what happened at Michigan State. That doctor abused hundreds of young women and girls, in large part because when they came forward to report, they were not believed. That not only traumatized those children, but it allowed for the abuse of so many more. So we as adults not just need to make sure that we don't just prevent child abuse, but that we respond to it appropriately.
Well, Attorney General Beshear, we really appreciate you making time to join us here on In Focus Kentucky. Obviously a tough topic, but very important issue for our state, and we're happy that you're out there helping to tackle it.
Well, and I greatly appreciate you using part of your show to address it. These are the types of partnerships with the media where we can truly help all our families.
You bet. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Thanks again for watching In Focus Kentucky. You can watch this or any of our past shows online at SpectrumInFocus.com. And of course, you can follow me on social media, Facebook and Twitter. Just search at Mario Anderson TV to keep up with updates about this show. Have a great week.